What's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the all-new generation for the Hyundai Tucson. And the model that we're looking at today is an XRT all-wheel drive, finished off in Amazon Gray, and has an MSRP at $34,700. Underneath the hood of the all-new generation Hyundai Tucson, you're going to find a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter inline 4-cylinder engine. It pumps out 187 horsepower with 178 pound-feet of torque, and it sends the power through an 8-speed automatic transmission to the H-Track all-wheel drive. Curb weight is around 3,600 pounds, and it runs on a 14.3-gallon fuel tank, so you're looking at 24 miles per gallon in the city with 29 out on the highway, and it can even tow about 2,000 pounds. Overall length is 182.3 inches with wheelbase at 108.5. Height is 65.6 and width is 73.3 inches. So then now moving on to the exterior styling with the all-new generation Hyundai Tucson. This has a really cool look, and I love all these sharp edges all throughout it. If we check out these super cool headlights, the actual headlight is down here. You'll see the headlight and high beam. Very cool the way it's integrated into the bumper. And then within the grille, it kind of matches all the mesh. All of this is part of the turn signals as well as daytime running lights. They look really cool, especially in the evening time when just the DRLs are on. But we get a massive Hyundai logo right in the center with a pretty large design for all the mesh openings in the grille. Really nice the way the bumper is molded around the headlights. You get a pretty cool cutout. And then in the lower portion, you see this massive black front splitter. Has a pretty sporty look and a nice opening to allow more cooling to the radiators. I like the way this is designed. You can see a lot of new Hyundai generation within this new design. And then you can see some sharp lines in the hood running their way all the way towards the windshield. And then moving to the side profile, this gets a set of 19-inch wheels finished off in a satin black. They're a multi-spoke design. Definitely have a pretty rugged look. You can see that black plastic makes its way all the way around to these really cool looking fender flares. The XRT kind of has an off-road vibe going. You also get a set of running boards and more plastic trim in the lower portion. And then I love the really sharp lines you're going to see all throughout the side. The front fender has a really sharp line right next to the hood, and it cuts its way into the door panel and just has like a triangle shape. You can see a sharp point cutting its way through the side with another sharp line around the rear fender. Definitely pretty sweet looking. We have body color on the door handles, and then gloss black on the mirror caps with an integrated LED turn signal. And then there's all gloss black trim around all the windows. This gets a black shark fin antenna, as well as black along the roof rails. And then if we make our way to the overall side profile, the Tucson is more of a smaller size, mid-size crossover SUV, has a pretty good proportion front and back. And again, from this angle, those sharp lines all throughout it really make it stand out. Definitely looks different from the other crossovers you'll see on the market. That sharp line cuts its way all the way into these taillights. They have a really sweet design with an LED bar connecting them, and it's pretty sharp looking back here. There's gloss black around the rear glass along with an integrated spoiler, as well as your third brake light, and the Hyundai badge is integrated right up top. Just standing back here, you can see how that automatically opens up. Very cool design the way everything is so seamless. Of course, we can just press the button and then close that back down. And then in the lower portion of the bumper, you're going to see a little bit of chrome trim along with some reflectors, and then a lot of triangle shapes within the rear bumper. You can see parking sensors, a small class 1 trailer hitch, and then some more black trim. I think Hyundai's doing a great job with their designs lately, and this one really stands out for the new Tucson. So there's a good look at the exterior design now with the new generation Hyundai Tucson. I love this new design. All of those sharp angles and edges you see really make it stand apart from the rest of the competition. So we have Hyundai's key fob, pretty simple as you would expect. We do get remote start on it. However, if I go ahead and lock the car, I can keep the key fob in my pocket and just grab the door handle. Everything unlocks and we can check out this interior. This Tucson gets a black fabric interior, and you're gonna see a little bit of silver accents all throughout. Taking a look at the door panel now, finished off all in black. I like this silver trim piece you're gonna see all up top. Has a nice design, and then a fabric trim piece down below that. You can see your aluminum color release handle, window controls, mirror controls, and lock and unlock. Then we get a grab handle and some padding for your armrest. There's some storage down below. Then you can see Tucson written out on the door sill and the size of these steps. We do have power controls on the XRT for the seats. Everything's right on the side. Then you can see the black fabric with a little bit of color contrast stitching. Pretty smooth and simple design. However, we do get a nice stripe in the backrest. Makes its way up a little bit. Then we have some stitching along the headrest. And then we have our black leather steering wheel with silver trim. And then now inside the all-new Tucson, keep my foot on the brake, we can go ahead and fire it up. We get the massive screen in the center turning on, as well as the infotainment. If we take a look at the gauge cluster, this is a full LCD display like we see on other Hyundai vehicles. You see your speedometer on the left with your fuel, and then your tach over on the right side. You can see a little bit of things in the lower portion and a central screen. You can control that screen using the buttons on the right side of the steering wheel. We have the pages icon and the up, down, and OK. So right now you can see your digital speed readout. I can scroll down and see all sorts of other information within the car. Timer, back to your speed. Tap in this icon, the pages logo, you can go up and down into the next setting. You can see all sorts of different settings. Then continuing over, we have tire pressure you can view. You can see the torque split for the all-wheel drive. Then we have a few safety settings that'll come up, especially when you're on cruise control. So I like how simple everything is laid out. Along the steering wheel now, we have some Bluetooth and audio controls over on the left side, and then cruise control settings are also on the right. We have our steering assist, lane keeping assist, as well as the forwards pacing. Then you can see the stock on the right side for all your windshield wipers. Turn signal and headlights are over on the left. And then to the left of the steering wheel, we have your traction control, power liftgate, and the interior dimming. Then I really like how this trim in the door wraps around. You'll notice that. Wrapping around all the way into the dashboard, and then wrapping around the other side. So it's got a pretty cool layout. All black along the dashboard. You can see the air vent on the far right side. And just a really cool integration all within that design. We have 2 more air vents up top. Then your infotainment system right in the center. On this main menu now, you can also tap all menus. See a few more different icons that are going to come up for the voice, the Bluetooth, audio, things like that. You can swipe left and right, see notifications, different settings. We have our home icon top left as well. Then we have different shortcuts for radio and media. Your volume on off is on the left with a roller. Then we have the seek track, and then your tuning on the right. I like how these are roller dials. It's a pretty neat design. Underneath that, we have climate controls. I can just tap the fan speed real quick and turn that on. It's all touch sensitive with some haptic feedback. We also get our dual zone temperature that you can sync. All the different controls, the front and rear defrost as well. You can also diffuse the air, kind of a neat way, and then just tapping the off button, turning everything back off. If I go ahead and put the car into reverse, the backup camera is gonna pop up. You get a pretty good camera view here with a pretty large screen. Just tapping that, we get a little bit different top-down view. Then you can also go into some settings as well. So it's a pretty good camera system overall. Then going ahead, putting us back into park, that will automatically shut off. Underneath that, we do have a wireless phone charging mat, some USB ports, as well as a 12 volt, and the light to tell you if the wireless charging is working. There's ambient lighting in there and some extra storage space. Then you can see some cool leather design around the shift boot. You have your 2 cup holders over on the right side. And then right in the center, we have all sorts of different features. We have the engine start stop, your drive mode select, and I love the different depictions you're gonna get. Going into the sport mode, it gets a little bit more performance looking, and then back into the normal mode. So we'll test those out in a second, but it's pretty nice to have. We have the electronic park and brake, a shortcut button right here. That'll get us right to that camera. Then we also have your downhill assist, your brake hold, and then the locking for the all-wheel drive system for if you are gonna be doing a little bit of off-roading. We have the heated seat icons right beneath that in easy reach. Then you can just tap this button and open up the center armrest. You have a really large amount of space in there. I like the stitching and the vinyl. And then grabbing the glove box, you have a pretty large bucket. One last look at the interior with the all-new Tucson. It's a pretty nice layout, pretty simple in here as you can see. However, it's extremely functional, seems pretty roomy, and you have all sorts of different tech to make it a pretty modern car. Up top, we get all of your dome lights, and then a large mirror underneath that with garage door buttons underneath. And then moving on to the rear seat space, if I grab the door handle and open it up, the door panel's finished off just like we saw up front, even with that same trim piece, and then you get the fabric in the door insert. You can also see similar fabric design all in back with that same stripe on the backrest. This can seat 3 people, and then right in the center, we can grab this and open it down, and you're gonna see a nice armrest along with 2 more cup holders. As far as amenities go, we do get 2 air vents as well as 2 USBs, and then storage behind each seat. So then sitting in the back seat of the new Tucson at about 6 feet tall, I have plenty of headroom, maybe like 3 inches. And even with the driver's seat set at my height, you got a ton of knee room and leg room. This is a pretty roomy car. These seats recline quite a lot actually. So honestly, you could use this for a pretty good family road trip vehicle. Of course, the seat goes way up as well, which isn't too comfortable, but I like the angle of recline. We get a pretty good armrest and a lot of glass back here to make it feel nice and open. And then of course, dome lights up top along with your grab handles. Moving on to the cargo area, you have the button on the key fob, the one in the interior, or of course one underneath. And then like you saw earlier, by just standing close to the car for a couple seconds, it can automatically open up depending on how you want it to do that. But in the back here, there is a ton of cargo area, pretty nice flat floor, and a lot of space to really amplify how much room you get. You can open up this and we get a nice size spare tire. And then I really like how there is a lever in the back to fold down these seats. You can just pull these to get them nicely out of the way. And with the seats all the way flat, you can see just how much more space you're gonna get in the back of the Tucson. If we go through these side doors now, they fold nearly flat. You still get a ton of space all up front, and it really does make this a practical crossover. All right, so we are setting off now in this new Hyundai Tucson. So the natural aspirated engine, it's all right. It's clearly not a fast car at all. Definitely kind of rings it out a little bit when you step on it. Not that fast, not that powerful. I don't believe a turbo engine is available in this car. I think that would be a nice step up to give it a little bit more grunt to the acceleration. However, I mean, it'll get up to speed, no big deal, and it gets pretty good gas mileage, especially for being, you know, a crossover style. So as far as normal driving, I mean, you have a huge windshield, really good visibility out the front with massive side windows, mirrors all do a great job. And when you look over your left and right shoulder, you have a pretty good view around the SUV. Not too bad at all, pretty big glass. So it's a nice car just to drive around. The seats are decently comfortable. Messing with some of the adjustments for the lumbar, they're all right. I wouldn't say they're the most luxurious seats out there, but you know, they're comfortable enough. You can adjust them enough to get pretty comfortable in here. It seems like a pretty well-refined car, cruising at 50 miles an hour right now. You don't really hear much wind noise or road noise or anything like that. You really just hear the engine when you're in the higher rev. So getting up this hill a little bit, had to downshift just a tad. But it's a pretty quiet car. Suspension does a good job absorbing bumps, and even when you do tackle some turns like right now, I mean, there's not really much body roll or anything, so it seems like a nice and stable car. I think Hyundai did a pretty good job just doing that. It feels, you know, pretty revised and pretty refreshed compared to the older ones, and it feels like it is nice and refined for especially being a pretty affordable car. The transmission does a decent job using the power. I think just because it doesn't have that much power, it does ring out the gears quite a lot. So that could be one downfall of the car. You know, if you want something with a little bit more pep to the step, you might want to get into a Santa Fe with the turbo. But as far as the technology and stuff, the lane keeping and the steering intervention with the adaptive cruise control, Hyundai, for whatever reason, they just do such a good job. They have done such a great job. Every Hyundai I've driven with this technology, it does a great job maintaining the distance, maintaining the steering angle and everything when you are going around a turn. Even if I take my hand off it a little bit, it'll still go off a little bit when you hit the lines, but especially when you're out on the highway, these things are so good. Just so good at doing all the safety things like that, kind of like autonomous driving. So I love Hyundai's cruise control, the lane keeping. It works really well in these cars, and it makes it feel like a more refined luxury car. So it's definitely a great touch to have that type of technology into a very affordable car. All right, so spinning around to my perspective, my honest thoughts of this new Tucson. I think for a good, affordable, mid-size, smaller size crossover, it's a great way to go. I think Hyundai really does a great job making affordable cars that are just good and kind of give you what you need for a point A to point B car. I think the styling is really nice as well. There's sharp lines all throughout. It really does look like a great little crossover. And when you compare it to other cars in this segment, which is a huge segment, probably the biggest segment in the US at least, I mean, there's a million different crossovers of this size that you can get from every single brand. This one does stand out. It looks a little bit more unique, a little bit different, so it makes it actually look like something that can catch your eye versus everything else looking exactly the same. Now, driving it and everything, the engine, I'm not the biggest fan. It's a little slow, a little sluggish for my taste, normal driving, I think 90% of the people probably would have no issues at all. It drives normal, it's comfortable, quiet, all that good stuff. It can get up to speed like normal. However, the turbo engine that you'll see on like a Santa Fe or something, that thing really packs a punch, and I would love to see that one in this car. I think that would make this a really, really attractive option. As far as the engine goes though, I mean, it still does what it needs to do. It's not that that's a big deal, it's just my personal taste. Of course, I like more powerful and things like that. But the refinements and things like that, the things you touch, I mean, the steering wheel leather feels really nice. The fabric seats are okay. I know you can get higher trim levels, of course. The XRT is kind of a mid-level trim, so you kind of just get a few goodies here and there, the more rugged exterior design. However, you just don't really get too much luxury. But as far as a more mid-level trim goes, it seems like it's adequately optioned with a few good things in it. Coming to a stop, you know, the brakes work really well. And then if we just bump it into the sport mode doesn't really do much. Just kind of sharpens the throttle response just a little bit. But yeah, I would love to see a turbo in this. I think my favorite thing about this is just the technology that it has as far as the radar cruise control, the lane keeping and steering assist. It works really well, and it makes you impressed when you drive a Hyundai. Because honestly, Hyundai, their technology seems right on par with the European brands, which is a really good thing. So it's nice to see an affordable car with that type of cruise control system. The tech in the screen here isn't really too fancy. There is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, however, which is a great touch, especially for a mid-level trim. And then the backup camera works adequately. As far as the space and sizing, like I said, about 6 feet tall, plenty of headroom. There's a lot of room in here in general, and honestly, I can put the seat back quite a long distance and recline it a lot. Steering wheel moves a lot as well. So I think a lot of different body types can easily fit in here comfortably, and even in the back seat, it's practical and comfortable with a huge size cargo area. So I think the Tucson is kind of a really well-rounded car for a good price, and I think it's definitely something to look into if you just want a good basic A to B crossover SUV that's a little bit more stylish than the rest and has some good technology in it without breaking the bank. So I think that is then it for the newest generation Hyundai Tucson 2022, 2023, about the exact same car in the new generation. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, checking out this new crossover. Definitely a nice little vehicle to check out. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for plenty more content, and I'll see you all in the next video.